Hey guys, welcome to macOS User Interface Design Tricks. In these tutorials, I will be showing some of the basic customizations on the user interface that can be achieved using Swift 3 and Xcode 8. These tutorials assume that you have some knowledge of programming on macOS, although that is not required. And feel free to leave any questions in the comment section if you don't understand. In this video, we'll play around default window buttons. And this is the app that we will be creating. As you can see, there are three switches. Each is responsible for one of these window buttons here. And when the button is invisible, you cannot click it. If all three are disabled, then there's nothing at all on the top left corner. So this is the app that we'll make. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So, of course, the first thing that we're going to do is to create a new Xcode project. Make sure you choose Cocoa application. Next, let's call it window buttons. Make sure that you don't click any of these checkboxes, and the language is in Swift. And you can continue. I'll just save it on my desktop. Okay. Users that are familiar with OS X development should know that there is a main.storyboard file, which is responsible for all of the user interface. In here, there are two views. One is the window controller responsible for the appearance of the window, and then there is a view controller responsible for the appearance of the view. In this app, we'll be designing three buttons that look like this, which are actually not available as part of the default toolkit for Xcode. As you can see, these functions are not in here. This is because this is actually developed by a third-party developer, and it can be found here, and the link here. I'll also be posting the link down in the description section, so feel free to download this toolkit if you want it. It is basically a plugin where you can have a checkbox that looks like the iOS style switch. So if you download the source, you realize that it comes with two files called ITSwitch.h and ITSwitch.m. M is the main file and H is the header for those that are familiar with C style programming. So what you're going to do is you drag these two files into the project folder. Make sure that you select copy items needed, and just you don't need to do anything else. And then it'll ask you to create an Objective-C bridging header. Click create bridging header, and it will create a new file here called your app name, and then it has a dash and then bridging header. There is only one line of code that you need to add, and that is import ITSwitch.h. That means you're importing the header file from this Objective-C header, and that makes it available for the app to use, and it will be recognized as part of the interface. Now, to add a switch, all we need to do is to select a custom view here. This custom view is basically just an empty NS view without any specialized function. So once we have this, we go here, and then when it says custom class, we enter ITSwitch. It should automatically pop out. And if we just wait for like half a minute, it says updating, it will eventually have the functions that we need. It will have the exact view that we'll be seeing when we run the application. But as we wait, we can do something else. We can resize the window so that it looks like the right size for the app that we'll be making. Yes, as you can see, this is the switch. If you think it's a bit big, you can actually resize it. This toolkit is pretty flexible in that you can change the size to whatever you want. Okay. So if we follow the plan design, we should have three buttons. This one will be responsible for toggling the visibility of the close button, so we will just name it close button. There should be two more. One will be the miniaturize button. And the third one will be the zoom button. What I really like about the toolkit is that you can actually change the color right away, just right here. For example, I'll just use the default red color in my existing toolkit. I'll make it checked for this one, and I'll make the color some orange color that kind of suits the color of the button. And I'll have the green button, just the default color. Right. So now I have these three buttons, and they kind of match the colors of the three window buttons that we'll be switching on and off as the functionality of this app. Alright, so now we actually need to assign these three switches to actual functions or lines of code. So we do that by hitting this button here, which will bring up the split view with the interface on one side and the coding view on the other side. To create a function, press down Control and drag it into this section. We want to make an action because this button is supposed to be an action. Make sure the type is an ITSwitch, and let's just call this close button switch. And now any code that is entered here will be executed when the user switches on or off by just clicking this button. In other words, this button is now a trigger that will run the lines of code that are entered here. So basically we need to detect whether this button is on or it is off, and then depending on whether it is on or off, we either enable or disable the close button of the window. To access the window, it is view.window standard window button. So now we're trying to get the standard window button, the close button, and dot close button. Sorry, my Xcode is not working properly. But as you can see, you just need to type view.window standard window button close button is hidden is equal to whether the sender is closed or not. So it's actually the opposite of whether the sender is enabled or checked. Yes, it's called checked. So if this is right, then we should have the first button working. Oops. Yeah, it's just sometimes it has a lot of optionals and non-optionals. I personally prefer to leave them as question marks because sometimes if you unwrap something that doesn't exist, or if you unwrap a nil, your app crashes. So I would usually just use question marks if I can. Okay, where's the app? Okay, here. Let's see. Alright, the first button already works. Of course, these two don't work, but we can just simply copy and paste the code. Alright, so let's drag the second one, action. Because miniaturize is the long word, I'll just use mini as an abbreviated version. Mini button switch. And I'll copy and paste the code. Now change the close button to miniaturize button. For the third one, we'll have zoom button. And then the type should also be ITSwitch. And then change this to zoom button. Okay, so now all three buttons should work. Let's see. Okay, so now the first part of this tutorial is done. Now let's look at what this app has. It has a unified white color as background color, and there seems to be no title bar. So this is what we'll be doing right now. There's no title bar. So to do that, we need to actually customize the window, and we can do that by creating a new class called something like window controller, which will be designated to the customization of the window's appearance. And make sure that it's a subclass of a window controller, and we hit next. Now if you go to create, we'll have a new file called window controller on this side. Now we can close the split view because we're not using the view, the main interface. Alright, so for those that are familiar with this function will be executed every time a window is about to be loaded if it's as part of the class called window controller, which this file defines. So one of the things we need to do is that we need to hide the default gray window bar. As you can see, if we open this app, the one we have already made, there's a gray bar right there, and we need to hide that. So what we do is we go to type window dot title bar appears transparent, or we make that true. So if the title bar is transparent, it basically means that it doesn't exist, or it is not visible to the users. So now we have that. Second thing is that we need to make sure that this is full screen, because if we do not do the full screen, then the white part will only be the view itself, leaving an ugly gray color or some other color above. So what we are going to do is insert a new style mask that allows the full screen of the view. Window.styleMask.insert, and we put a new member called full size content view. Automatically pops up. It's pretty convenient to use. Alright, so now we have these two views. We can run the app and see what happens to our new title bar. Oops, it still exists because yeah, it's a good thing to remind that you have to go to the window and manually change the class to window controller, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay, cool. Now this bar has disappeared, and for some reason these views all moved upwards, and it actually makes sense because once you have the full-size content view, this is your entire view. Like these buttons are actually supposed to be here, so we've got to drag these downwards because this is going to be the entire window view. Yeah, that looks kind of right. So the last step we're going to do is to change the color to the white color. The background color equals to nscolor.white. That will give us a clean white background for the app. Now it looks like that. Brilliant. 3 functions, and that's it. By the way, if you want to change the title of the window, you can always click the window itself and change it to something like window buttons. And if you run it, it will automatically show up on the application. Of course, if the app's width is too small, then this title will not fully show, so it will be squeezed to the right side. But anyway, you get the idea. This is 3 buttons here, each responsible for the visibility of one of these standard window buttons. Thank you for watching.